The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite. Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Welcome to the podcast on Tuesday, the 12th of January 2021. On the podcast today, Vadim Alexandre, Head of Healthcare at SP Angel, discusses catching the coronavirus, what it felt like to him, and also we talk about the stocks Diurnal, DNL ticker there. Plus, Glen Goodman, former ITV News Business correspondent and now the author of The Crypto Trader, covers this week's moves in Bitcoin. Some big moves there, and also discusses whether it's a real asset. And as always, at the end of the podcast, I discuss two lists for you, or I read out two lists basically. And the first one is top 5 most followed companies on Vox Markets in the last 24 hours. It's quite an important list that people, companies get on that because people are hitting the follow button. They want news from the company. It's a measure of money flow, sort of, because people sort of start investing in those companies because obviously they're researching them. And so it's always good to look at that list there. And more important, if it's on there quite a lot, the share price hasn't risen. It's always good to keep a track of that. Top 5 as well, most read RNSs, of course, and that follows on from the most followed. More people follow, the more people read RNSs. So I'll read that list out as well. And of course, on the front page at voxmarkets.co.uk, see lots of content. In fact, there's an article there about Boku expects full year 20 to be ahead of expectations. There's also our COVID-19 index. Biggest riser on that today is Tiziana Life Sciences, up 8.6% to 132. Biggest faller, Fusion Antibodies. That's down 15% to 125. Check that out at voxmarkets.co.uk.
Vox Markets is an online community of investors that runs a free mobile and desktop platform that allows you to track news and updates about any UK-listed company, offering RNS push notifications, detailed charts, pricing data, and much more. Find out more at voxmarkets.co.uk/app.
And joining me on the podcast right now is Vadim Alexandre, Head of Healthcare at SP Angel. You know, Vadim?
How you doing, Justin?
Well, I'm good. In fact, I'm doing better than you by the sounds of it. But you're coughing away there, and you were head of healthcare, and yet you said we couldn't do it last week because you actually got COVID. You had COVID-19, coronavirus, Go on. How are you feeling?
Unfortunately, feeling it's a little bit of cough, but feeling much better now. Thanks, Justin. It was unfortunate, but we caught it. We think that my wife picked it up at the local post office. This new variant is indeed quite infectious.
Isn't it? Do you know what? That's interesting. First of all, I was going to say, where did you get it from? And so, essentially, we are trying to, I don't know, most people, I think, are trying to abide by the rules. But, of course, you have to get out sometimes to the shops, to, post offices. And that area where there's people congregating, that is where it's a bit dangerous, I suppose, where you're likely. But this new variant seems, like I say, a lot more contagious. Because during the first wave, I didn't know anyone who'd caught it. I knew someone who knew someone who knew someone, but now I got my nephew caught it, my friend who comes on the weekend podcast has caught it, you got it, and so there's lots more people have got it. So it definitely is catching a lot more, it's more contagious, and the figures have gone nuts. But in fact, I was looking at the last lockdown, it's very interesting, look at the charts, and it takes about a month, pretty much, 2 weeks to peak after everyone locks down, 2 weeks to the peak, 2 weeks to come back down, pretty much. And then, of course, we've now got the vaccine. So hopefully, the next week or so, and they're doing well with the vaccines, ramping up. They've done 2.6 million. They're ramping up. So hopefully, I'd say towards, another week or so, we should see that coming down, hopefully, some of the figures.
Hopefully. The only concern is with this variant, there is a distinct change in its contagion. Obviously, my story is anecdotal. But, we have been very, just might as well go through this story, is that, there's been no behavioral change at our end. We've been very careful for the full 10 months. And, the difference is all of a sudden that didn't work anymore, right? Yeah. So, one of us goes to a post office that was slightly more crowded than usual because it's Christmas time and, there's maybe 15 people in the post office. She was there 20 minutes. We don't know whether that was the actual event. But given how we were all living under lockdown and very, very careful, what's changed is the virus has changed. It feels like.
Yeah,
Do you see what I mean? So,
yeah.
I would say that maybe our lockdowns aren't going to work quite as well as
you're right.
the first time around. You know what I mean? So,
I did the same thing in a video.
No one's fault. It's just more contagious.
Yeah, you do. And the thing is, I think it's a mixture of things. Very complex, isn't it? But I think it's a mixture of everything. This lockdown is lockdown light compared to the first one. The traffic on the roads is quite heavy. There are still people going to work, and I think what's helping, in a very twisted way, really, the more doom and gloom we get on TV, the better for controlling this virus. And I understand. Yeah. Do you know what? Do you know what I hate? I hate people who are saying that people are lying about the NHS. My son's got a lung condition, right? So we're very close to a doctor.
That's awful. I agree with you. The people who are, conspiracy theories that the NHS
imbeciles. They're absolutely imbeciles. I know, but you know what? So we're very close to a doctor because my son goes quite often to a doctor. We had a text of her recently, and she's quite a calm, laid-back person, very nice to talk to, very calm, very measured, and a text was from somebody else. It was like she was genuinely scared. She said, "We're running out of oxygen. We don't know what to do with patients. We haven't got beds for patients. They're coming in. I've never been this scared in my entire life." And she's getting on for retirement age, and so it's very real. And I think the only positive to come out of that is hopefully people will realise that how scary it is at the moment on NHS front lines, and take precautions themselves because, like I said, we can do everything. We can just stop. And I think when it's fear, there's a lot, it's a survival mechanism, fear. And I think as long as there's a lot of fear out there about this, rightly so, not sort of fake fear, but as long as the people are saying, this is catching very quickly, and we can't, and it's about the NHS pretty much, because like I said, you feel a bit rough, my mate felt a bit rough, less than you by the sounds of it, but most people will get over this okay, but it's those people, like I said, the top tier, those 80-year-old plus who are filling up the beds, if they paralyse NHS, then it'll mess up everything. Even if you have an accident or you need, cancer treatment, you can't have it. So that's the issue. So people need to take it seriously, and hopefully, like I said, we need that kind of fear out there to control people, to show people, behave. It's going to be, it's going to be there for long. And these idiots who say it's a conspiracy theory, it'll go on for longer if they carry on misbehaving. They understand that, it's just stupid, I suppose.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yeah. But one thing I would say, just a small recommendation, just for people who know someone who's a bit older that gets COVID or whatever. A consideration. Look, I'm not backing any pulse oximeter companies or anything like that. It's just these. It's called a pulse oximeter. Okay, something you can get on Amazon for 15 quid. It's not very expensive, and they're readily available now. They're all over the place. There's like 10,000 models. Just get one that's okay. Pay 10 to 20 quid, get an okay one for those people. And I'll tell you why it's important is what it does is it never breaks the skin. It's like a blood pressure monitor. It's the same thing. You clip it onto your finger. It doesn't break your skin. It just measures using light what your blood oxygen
we've got one of those,
level is. Okay. And exactly. And they're available. You can get them for cheap anywhere. And you get them delivered, right? So and when you're someone who's a bit older, who's ill with COVID, they're out. I was out for 10 days. Okay. I was like 20 hours a day in bed. It was pretty bad, but I never was afraid for my life. I was just really feeling terrible. But I could imagine someone, 65-year-old older having a completely different experience. Yeah. And the key is blood oxygen levels. So it's good to have that in your home if you're ill with this virus, and it would serve us maybe in the future for another God forbid we get another one. But, who knows what's going on with these coronaviruses in the future. And, it'll serve you well in that type of emergency or a family member who's in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. And
most of us recover. Yeah. Most of us recover at home, but you need to know what your blood oxygen levels are if you're suffering from respiratory effects. Okay. So my point being is having that little device makes the difference kind of between life and death and getting to the hospital, at home. Most of the time you're at home, everything is fine, nothing ever happens. And you're just happy to know that, give you that security of knowing that you don't have any problems with your blood oxygen. Yeah. If you do, you'll be thankful that you have that device because you'll get to the hospital. You see, the problem with COVID historically, I think, has been that people didn't know that their oxygen levels were dropping because it's like it sneaks up onto you. I'll give you an example. In my case with the pulmonary effects, I thought I had no respiratory effects at all and then a cough emerged kind of about 7 days into it, and it was never terrible, but I got that feeling of slowly, not being able to get full breaths and things like that, and it just sneaks up on you. You know what I mean? So, anyways, look, I just a side thing. It's a consideration people should have because it's so accessible. These pulse oximeters, they're small, cheap devices.
Yeah. No, we got one, and for our son, because is very important. We send those into the doctor all the time now, remotely. We do take readings all the time. But cool. All right. It's right what you said there. Like you said, I don't know how old you are, but you seem to be about 23.
45.
Okay.
45.
45. I said, and you look relatively fit, and like I said, but you imagine that happened to an 80-year-old. That would take them under. It would knock them out. It would completely do them
Absolutely.
in. So, yeah. So
that was my definite feeling. Is I was like, if this is doing this to me, don't consider myself maybe the most fit person, but I'm 45. I can't imagine what it's like for someone 65 and older, and it's unpredictable. Obviously, there are 80-year-olds that are asymptomatic. But the reality is, and the age, it was very highly correlated in age within my family. My wife. There's a male-female correlation as well. My wife had it about half as bad as me, and my 6-year-old and my 11-year-old barely had symptoms. Wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so definitely the age correlation in this anecdotal, example bore out just like exactly as the statistics indicated.
Yeah. So, my nephew's what is it? 18, and then he had it. He didn't even know he had it. I mean, hardly at all. But there we are. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Listen. Let's get quick onto the stock. You mentioned about Diurnal before we came on. What's happening with Diurnal? What's going on there?
Yeah. So Diurnal just had an announcement this morning, which was about they are filing for. So they filed with the EMA, which is the European Medicines Agency, so the European regulator, and obviously with Brexit they had to file with the UK MHRA. So that's what they submitted today, and this is for their second big drug called Chronocort, which is in the area of basically they're an endocrinology company. Their first drug Alkindi has been approved in many territories, and that continues to roll out nicely. They've just made it clear to the market that they've filed with the UK component of their, if you like, their EMA application. So we're still waiting on the European approval for their second product, Chronocort. And that's, the news with Diurnal is that it's imminent. Sometime this quarter, we're going to either get the European approval or not. Balance of probabilities is that they'll get it. If they get it, that'll be a big share price event for the company. I think it'll be the biggest achievement of the company.
Just explain quickly a summary of Diurnal. What do they do for, what people not familiar with them, what are they about?
Yeah, so the CAH, I think it's called congenital adrenal hyperplasia, is the indication. Okay, basically, it's people are born with the inability or an inborn error of not being able to make cortisone. Okay, so the natural cortisol levels, and that causes all kinds of. It's a major issue. So then you need to replace that cortisone. What Diurnal specialize in is the delivery. So cortisone is a well-known, drug. Hydrocortisone is used left, right, and center in medicine. The problem is getting it uniformly delivered in such a way that mimics your own, if you were able to produce it naturally, which most of patients who have this condition aren't able to produce it naturally. So you need to be careful how you deliver it because you don't want spikes and troughs. It's just like anything else. Delivery, of a hormone, the more uniform it is, and the more in keeping with the natural production. Should people not suffer from this condition, we have a normal rhythm at which we develop cortisol. Produce cortisol endogenously. What we're trying to do is mimic that better. That's what this company does. Is their delivery mechanism is better, rather than the current ways of administering hydrocortisone, which lead to these problems, which lead to these spikes and troughs in hydrocortisone. Anyway, so that's the innovation that Diurnal. So what's good about this company, why I like it, is that they are delivering a well-known drug. So the safety issue isn't about hydrocortisone itself. It's all about can they deliver it in the way they purport they can, right?
Yeah.
The history with Diurnal is interesting in that. they had a drug failure, okay, but the data was poured over by the company together with the EMA, with the regulators, and they agreed that they should submit nonetheless. And that's a very strong sign that the regulator wants this approved. So I guess my point being is that, it's a company I think that's undervalued given that circumstance. They have one drug. Alkindi is their first drug. It's also in this area, but for children, for pediatrics. This new one, Chronocort, same area, but for adults. So it's just a question of this approval. Will they get it or not? All signs point that towards them getting it, because they had a correspondence with the EMA before looking through the data and telling them there's an approval here. We just need the package. We need it packaged this way. And that's what they did over the last 18 months, submitted it. Now we're just waiting on the approval. Should that approval come, though, it's a step change for that company. So we're expecting there's always a risk. We know with approvals, balance of probability is that they get it approved. There's always a risk they don't for whatever reason. But if they do, I would look at, a step change in valuation. It should be, I'm a holder of this stock. I like this company. I think that it could be, multiples of where it is with this approval.
Yeah, good stuff. Marvelous stuff. And the ticker, what's ticker down there? How do you get it? It's DNL, is that right?
DNL. Yeah, DNL.
Marvelous stuff. Well, listen, you have a lie down, fella. You sound like you need it there. So, marvellous. Vadim, thanks for that, fella, and we'll speak you next week here, all right?
Good to chat, Justin. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite.
And joining me on the podcast right now is Glen Goodman. He is the crypto trader, and I tell you what a time of life to be alive, Glenn. What a time to be releasing a book on crypto trading when we've got the Bitcoin price hitting mainstream media. It's all over the place, isn't it? I got my father calling me up, who's 70 something, and 75. I say, shall I buy some Bitcoin? And he has problems getting online, for heaven's sake. I don't know how the heck he expects to buy some Bitcoin. I don't know where you're going to buy it from. And you can't just pop in the local shop and say, give us a couple of quid's worth of Bitcoin, please.
You mentioned this in last week's podcast that your dad had asked you, and as ever, the person who you least expect to ask about buying an asset, when they do ask about it, it marks the top.
Yeah,
I said this to him. That was perfect. It did mark the top.
Well, do you know what? To be fair,
crashed after that.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it was rising parabolically, and I said to him, listen, Dad, this may not be the exact top, but we're close to it, because the fact that you're calling me, means, people don't even know what digital assets are. Don't know what, I'm struggling getting online. Asked me about buying Bitcoin. So we're not far off. I think he said that about 33,000 it was. So it got to 40, didn't it? But now it's back down to 35. So he'd still be in profit, I suppose, if he'd found some way of buying it. I don't know how. Yeah. I don't think.
Well, it fell to 30 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
So, a pretty huge drop for one day. It dropped like 20-25% in one day, which is, for any other asset would be remarkable. For Bitcoin, it doesn't even look that extreme on a chart. It only took us back to where we were several days earlier. So, the recovery, as we speak, the recovery has been pretty impressive.
Let me ask you a question here then, right? Two questions in one here. Yeah. So are we now, because let's be honest, we have a couple of days now of falls, and as you know, charts can roll over and they can consolidate and go lower for a while. So someone said to me yesterday, tell them to jump in. I said, not yet, let it settle down, let the charts settle down. People want to jump back in, and they may have done well if they'd bought at, say 31, because it's back at 35 now. So, but I think, it may retest that spike low. So here's the thing, right? Are we now, this is a two-part question, so don't jump in yet. I've got two questions. I thought about this in the shower earlier. I was thinking of you, Glenn, when I was in the shower. I should rub in the old shower, the old shower gel on, thinking of Glenn. There we go. Are we now in for a crypto winter? And if so, because there's more support, there's more awareness about Bitcoin, are the winters become shorter and the summers longer? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you like that?
I like what you're saying there.
Because more people are buying the dip now. Surely it's more awareness around. So the dips last as long, but before that winter lasted about 2 years in that crypto winter, didn't it, or something ridiculous?
Yes, well, 3 years in total, yeah. So, will they last shorter times? The length of the winters tends to match fairly well the lengths of the summers beforehand, right? So, here's the thing. This has been a very quick boom. So, I would expect, commensurately, a very quick retraction after it. I don't think, I mean, you can never be sure, but I don't think this is the end of the bull market right now. I think this is just a temporary correction. So, your dad, when we're taking the piss out of your dad saying he wanted to buy at the top, I suspect it's not the top of this bull market. I think it's just a stop along the way. But nonetheless, the fact that he was calling sort of at least marks the temporary top. It showed that, as you say, it's in the mainstream media. Everyone's talking about it. There are loads of ridiculous predictions from major banks now, people like JP Morgan putting out projections that the price could rise enormously over the years. Of course, these are all just signs that those banks and institutions and other pundits are heavily invested in Bitcoin and possibly would quite like to offload some of it to gullible retail investors, which is why they pump the price. It's been, you and me have seen this happen in the stock market constantly throughout our trading lives. And now it's exactly the same in Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's interesting to see if you get some big sort of offloaders where the price will go, whether buying will help it. But if I look now, it broke out of the range, really. The range was, I'm looking at the chart here, about 12,200 and that. It broke out of that in a big day on October 21st, 2020. And then it went sort of pretty much up at a 45-degree angle. It came back about twice, then up again, and almost like a straight up at one point. But so from October to now, where are we at the moment? November, December, January, maybe 3 months. So maybe 3 months consolidation, or we'll see. We'll see if the winter lasts that long, or if the summer comes again very quickly.
Well, let's have a look at the long-term chart now, and I'm going to see if I can hazard a guess. Well, let's see. Yeah, so it broke out at about 10,000. I've been, I sold right near the top, which I'm very pleased about.
You're good, Glenn, you're good.
Oh, I know these parabolas, you see. I'm particularly good with those.
Hey, keep it clean, Glenn, okay? Oh, sorry.
The parabolic growth. I'm good with that, which was, that was the basis for writing my book, wasn't it? Was that I'd identified the top of the 2017 parabola. Yeah. So we had
everyone should check their parabolas now and again, because just, it's a good check to do, just in case.
It is, particularly if you're over 40. Yeah. Always check those. So it's... so once again, I sold near the top, not just Bitcoin, but all my other cryptocurrency holdings. I sold a lot, and that turned out to be a good move. So yesterday, as the price was plummeting, yesterday being Monday, I was very happy all day, like feeling smug that I'd sold and now it was falling. And, I was thinking as long as the damage to the chart wasn't too dramatic, then I would be wanting to probably buy back in, thinking it was... going to be a temporary phenomenon. As I say, I still think it's going to be a temporary fall rather than anything more serious.
Well, everything's temporary, isn't it? Life is temporary.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Would it be a 3-month consolidation now? It's possible. When I look at the long-term chart, the only real support that we've seen on the chart, the next natural major support point is all the way back where I bought initially at around about $10,000.
I saw someone else say that as well. I saw someone else say $10,000 on on I think it was Twitter or something. So, but I thought, wow, really? And the thing is,
if you look at just look at the daily chart, and you won't see anything that like screams to you, this is a major support level. Maybe around 20,000 was a bit of a support level as well, but other than that, we're talking about around 10,000. I don't know. Maybe I'm too caught up now in the moment, but I don't really feel like we're about to head all the way back down there just yet.
Yeah, but do you know what?
I may be wrong, but the beautiful thing about being a trend follower like me is that you follow the charts as they reveal themselves.
Ooh.
So, prediction is kind of pointless for people like me because I just watch the shape of the chart and I react accordingly. So, I didn't sell near 40,000 because I thought, I reckon the price is going to start falling any minute now. No, because I don't predict. What I did do, though, was watch the chart as it was curving round. It made a bit of a top pattern. So because it looked like it was making a rounding kind of top pattern, that was my cue to sell. Likewise, if this turns out to be a temporary correction, you can believe that I'll be back in Bitcoin and staying in it for some time to come. But if this turns out to be far more serious, I'll be out because the chart will tell me to get out. The chart tells me, Justin.
See, only the chart speaks to Glenn exclusively.
Yeah.
Hey, Glenn, do you like working so just around the house and say, hey, Glenn, listen to her. Glenn, it's the chart. Come to your computer. The Bitcoin is going to roll over. Sell all your crypto. Thanks to chart. You are the fairest of them all. But do you know what, though? I was thinking there, when we think something's not going to happen, it can do. And it's like people often say, on next sell-off, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. They have a sell-off and they don't buy it because they're worried how fast it goes down. So it's almost like you're scaling at levels you're happy with and not go crazy with it. But so of course it can sell off. And thing is, we envisage so many times that I've bought stocks, and they're hot stocks. I want to get into them, and I fear of missing out. And says, it's going to go to the moon because of this strong trend. And then all of a sudden, there's an entire market sell-off. And I thought I could have just waited a month, and I could have got these cheaper. And that always kind of happens. When you think it won't happen, generally it happens, doesn't it?
It does. So the fact that I'm saying I think it probably won't be a massive correction of the 80% order kind of implies, maybe it will, because I don't expect it to happen. Yeah. But that's what we're talking about, remember? When we're talking, me and you are talking about, I think we could have a 3-month consolidation, we'd be talking about sort of an 80% fall, something like that, in order to undo most of the work that has been done over the past few months. And I don't feel like that's realistic just yet, because we've only just, we only entered a bull market a couple of months ago. It seems a bit soon to have an 80% decline.
But remember,
it would certainly be unprecedented in any other type of market.
Think of, look at the chart, think of emotions, right? Market emotions. Now, most of the people buying, and if you look at the volume on Bitcoin here, most of the people buying, and there was a lot of volume up even in the last, say, 3 or 4 sessions, say, from the 5th of Jan, where it was like 32,000, when my father was saying, should he buy, when the fear of missing out was the greatest, people were buying. There's a lot of green volume there on the chart, I can see. And yet, so those people now, who are not in profit, they'll start selling, that'll take the top off the mountain. And then, selling begets selling, as you know. Then people lower down then think, I'm starting to go at a profit as well now. They'll start selling. So it gets to the stage where does it settle? Because that's market emotion, isn't it? Fear of missing out turns to fear.
It is. Though the good thing about Bitcoin, the interesting thing that you don't get in the stock market, is we get to see what happens on the blockchain. And you can do a lot of different types of analysis because of that. And one thing you can look at is whether long-term holders are moving their Bitcoin onto exchanges or not. And historically, whenever long-term holders move a lot of Bitcoin onto exchanges, it means that they're about to sell it and probably push the price down. So you get a kind of a bit of a prior warning there, and we didn't see it with this correction, and we still haven't really seen it, which sort of implies that the long-term holders are
deluded,
are just holding. Well, they're holding they're holding on for dear life for a little bit longer. So I mean, that's a positive sign. I think I put that on a tweet a few days ago. That's about the only positive sign I can see. In terms of negative, pretty much everything you've just talked about. Your dad is probably the biggest negative sign. He should be in the front page articles on the mainstream newspapers. They should say,
there should be
major sign that Bitcoin's about to fall heavily. Justin's dad took an interest.
There should be like a plus 70 index, for 70-year-olds. When they start getting interested in something, it's not normal. It's time to get out. That's it. Let's talk about regulation, because I thought it was. Do you know what I heard? I don't know what time you get up, but you're probably still in your pajamas, Glenn, right now. But I get up quite early. I was listening to Radio 5 Live this morning, and they had a guy from the Bank of England or the FCA on there. He sounded like a dinosaur. He sounded so old. Like he's talking about Bitcoin. Say, well, the thing is, it hasn't got any intrinsic value, unlike gold, which has intrinsic. Gold is just basically a part of a rock you dig from the ground.
Yeah.
It never did have intrinsic value. It was a rock, it was quite shiny compared to this, and people started to give it intrinsic value, and then because they did, it became valuable. So it's self-fulfilling, isn't it? It's like a piece of art. If it's rubbish, you can have a piece of art, I can show it to you, so that's absolute trash. Who painted that as a 4-year-old? I said, no, he's a guy, he's an artist, he's a genius. In fact, someone's offered $1 million for it. That's what it's worth. And they say, oh, right, oh, okay. And they think, oh. And I said, Glenn, do you want to buy it for $500,000? You can sell it for $1 million. Yes. So, intrinsic value is what people are willing to pay for it. It's ridiculous saying that gold has intrinsic value, because pretty much gold is not used that much industrially. It's stored, or it's used a little bit, but it's stored and held. That's all it is. So this guy was, I thought, well, digital assets. Most money moved around on the internet today is digital. It's not real. It's not, silver coins or gold coins, a simple fool. He sounded so old-fashioned, but he's sounded so pompous. I'm sure some people would believe him. I thought, mate, get with the plan. It's like, you are the same as like Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, all these people back 5 years ago when they were trying to hammer Bitcoin to get a low price, and now they're in it. So it'll be the same with the Bank of England, FCA, and all that stuff. In the end, they'll say, we now recognise it. And he was saying something like, be careful. If you lose your money in Bitcoin, you lose your money. Well, same with shares. If you're losing money, you lose your money pretty much. Penny stocks are volatile and risky. That's what it's about. Risk and reward, isn't it? Wow, he sounded bad. He sounded like 10 years, like Bitcoin just come around, So get with it, mate. Come on.
You have to wait until Bitcoin basically becomes worth as much as gold, like the entire gold market. All the Bitcoins become worth as much as all the gold. And then he'll suddenly announce that Bitcoin is a proper asset, one that we now recognize. And in fact, our central bank is now buying some to hold as a reserve asset. That'll be what happens at that point. Out of interest, did they have anybody putting the bull case for Bitcoin on the program?
No, it's just this idiot, from the FCA, who sounded like he came out of the ark, but he sounded so pompous. It doesn't have intrinsic value. What is intrinsic value, you fool? It's what people. It's more valuable. What people ascribe as value to it, rather than what you think is. Because it's a heavy stone that comes out of the ground. Gold's worth nothing. Until someone decided, I like this shiny bit of thing. I
guess that's what he means by the intrinsic value, is that over thousands of years, people have shown a propensity to buy it and make it into jewellery.
But guess what, Grandpa? It might have lost its intrinsic value when they decided to move all currencies off the gold standard. But they didn't, And so we're in the digital age now. Things move faster. Kids are more likely to buy digital stuff than golds, big blocks of gold and chuck under their bed. So I'd say digital assets have more intrinsic value because people are more likely to hold them. In fact, we probably hold more now intrinsically, digitally, than real stuff, because all our stuff, when you transfer money around the phone, you pay someone, it's all digital. It's not real cash going between banks or whatever, or to online shops. It's digital stuff. What's he talking about?
You can kind of imagine, the same kind of people saying that about Google or Facebook when they first
the internet
came along.
There's
no intrinsic value there.
Yeah.
They can't make money
exactly,
out of
it. That's it. And they wouldn't value a business like Amazon back in the day because, no, they don't have any bricks and mortar. You can't walk down the high street and knock on the door and say, excuse me, Mr. Amazon, or Mr. Google, could you find something in the shop for me? Mr. Google isn't there, Mr. Amazon isn't there. But you can walk into Marks and Spencer's and ask Mr. Mark and Mr. Spencer for some underpants.
Exactly. The kids understand. My kids understand because they ask for Robux for Christmas, that kind of thing.
My kids ask V-Bucks. And I think that guy from the FCA did more to convince me that Bitcoin was worth something than he did to say it wasn't. It was simply, just get with the plan, Grandad. Come on. Even my father, wants to buy it because it's going up. He understands if it goes up and lots of people think it's going to be worth more, it's probably worth more. That's it. Anyway, did you see? So I didn't understand what they were saying in the FCA about they're warning you may lose all your assets. Did you see that? Just stupid, I thought.
Yeah, I saw that as well. You may lose it all. Yeah, you may lose it all, but you may lose it all on the stock market, and they
that's
don't
investing.
go on the radio telling you that every day.
That's investing, isn't it, essentially? That's what he's trying to say. Yeah, that's investing. You may lose it all, but you may make some as well. Who knows? He didn't say that. I would love it if the FCA came out and said that. But having said that, my nephew's done really well on it. He bought a tump load at 20 grand, and now it's 40 grand.
And he tried to persuade me to buy some, but I wasn't interested.
I said it's not an intrinsic asset. Meanwhile, he's doubled his money, and gold's gone nowhere. Anyway, anything else happening in the crypto space?
You're getting a bit giddy.
No, it's just that guy's made me laugh. I sort of blinking he was in his thinking. Don't be so stupid. It's like, it's what people give value to, attribute it value to. He's like, I may not think that Fortnite's any good. It's a waste of time. My kids love it. And do you know what?
Yeah.
The company earns billions. So lots of kids in the world love it. I think it's a waste of time, but there we are.
I think it's worth expanding on that point about digital money, though, and young people understanding it, because we both got our kids asking us to give them digital tokens for Christmas, which I don't know about you, but I really struggle with that, the idea of giving it to them as a Christmas present. But to them, it's perfectly normal. They're like, well, I want something that's of value for Christmas, they're saying. And the thing that is of value is invisible tokens called Robux, which we can spend on invisible nothings on our game Roblox. Basically they use these tokens to buy outfits for their characters, which are of course just some pixels. They just want to buy some pixels to change the way their character looks ever so slightly, give them a pair of sunglasses or whatever, and charge you a tenner. I mean, seriously, that's what these games do. Anybody who plays them and is really into them knows about that particular economy and how you can, sell sunglasses or T-shirts or whatever in these games. Even though they're just pixels, they sell for as much as a real-life T-shirt that's been, made in China and shipped all the way around the world.
So
that's the new world.
Exactly.
Is it. And that's why Bitcoin is so naturally understandable to young people.
But not only that, this guy, what if I was saying, give him a bit of time, I could probably come up with half a dozen examples of him buying stuff that are digital and him not knowing that it's, because, for example, or even other example, people have been trading Forex for years, haven't they? Just currency pairs. That's not real, really, is it? People are just trading it, buying and selling, trading it. That's it, all they do. So how do people make money doing that? And it's when people buy stocks and shares, they're not actually getting, real shares from a company. I mean, you can claim it, of course it is. They don't. They sell that off very quickly and very soon. And it just passes between electronic accounts. It's not, like I said, when this guy buys his missus a hat from Marks & Spencer's online or something, he's transferred digital money. There's no real money going between accounts there. It's all silver and gold and, like you said, intrinsic value. It's not. It's just digital. Doesn't he understand digital? It's a digital asset. He doesn't understand that. He's completely stupid, imbecilic. He's a simpleton. The man is. Really, honestly, he's got.
You really don't like this guy, do you?
I'm just laughing at the guy how pompous he was because I'm from the FCA. I thought, you are talking absolute nonsense. And there are people. What annoyed me more is I can imagine people listening nodding their heads, saying, "Yes, he's right. It's not something you hold in your hand." So neither is the sunshine. Is that real? Simple idiot.
You're getting really philosophical today. I like this side of you, Justin.
The sunshine, you can't pick it up. You can get tanned by it, though, and you can create electricity. How does that work, then, fella from the FCA? Huh? Yeah.
It's magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like this is magic internet money.
Yeah, it's like
that's what we've been calling it since Bitcoin was
invented. And probably his pension's probably invested in something like some kind of solar somewhere, some clean energy somewhere where that's come from the sun. Well, how are you making money from the sunshine? Because you are. So, essentially. Anyway, is there any other stuff going on?
Well, let me play devil's advocate for a moment here.
No, is the devil busy again? He sent you down to do his work, is he?
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm sending Glen down.
I'll put the other side of the story. Just so, on one hand, young people understand it, and it's because digital money is real money if it's useful for actually buying something. Now, here's the interesting thing, is that Robux arguably are more useful than Bitcoin, because exactly what Robux are for. When my kids buy Robux or want Robux, it's because they know that there are particular items that have to be bought with these Robux. Now, it's not really the same with Bitcoin, is it? Because one, you can't spend it in many places. And two, even in the places you can spend it, you can usually spend other types of money like dollars as well anyway. So it doesn't have a kind of unique use case. It has unique technology that allows it to be transferred across borders quickly and cheaply and all the rest of it. But then there are systems that are coming into place now where most people can do easy, quick, cheap transfers of money across borders without having to worry about cryptocurrencies. So its unique use case, I'd say, is actually probably less unique than it was a decade ago. And at the moment, it could be argued that Bitcoin is only popular because Bitcoin is popular. It's the network effect.
But that's everything, though. It's like, do you know what? Anything is popular is worth money, pretty much. So to get that popularity is very hard, though. To get that adoption is very hard. It's the same with gold. It became popular. That's the one that became popular at the start. And so again, it comes back to, if lots of people think it's got value, it has. It doesn't have to be tangible or anything like that. It has value. If millions of people think it's got value and they can trade it to make a profit on it, it's got value, full stop. There's no point him quibbling over, because it's not a rock in the ground, we dig out and we, use slave labour for it and kill lots of people. And we exploit lots of people. But, exploitation goes on. It's not real. But it is, though, because...
I agree with the viewpoint that you're just putting here, because that's kind of how I feel, not just about Bitcoin, but about every asset. And this is where you might differ with me, because when it comes to shares, you take a very fundamental view.
No, I don't. I do both. I always look at charts
as well.
I'm a tech mentalist, so I literally, fundamentally, what to buy, tech, when to buy it. So I'll try, if it's got, you've got to look at a chart, because you could be looking at a company, like I said, liking what you read and liking the growth potential here, but then the share price has gone berserk and you could be sitting on a loss for a long time. So you've got to look at a chart always. And I always look at a chart, but I want to buy a fast-growing business that's exciting and I enjoy. So that's what I look for, is small, fast-growing businesses, with lots of opportunity. Then I look at the chart as well to look at entry levels. And that's what I do. So, fundamentals, what to buy, chart, when to buy, essentially.
Yeah, and that's a very sensible way of doing it.
Thank you.
I think. A good mixture of the two elements. But what I would say is, when I look at a chart of, a company that's doing really, really well, I don't necessarily, and I think about the fundamentals, I don't necessarily think, this company's making loads of profits and they're growing every year. I think, that's a good trend, and I trade trends, but that doesn't mean that it will necessarily continue. And that's kind of the way that I feel about Bitcoin. Is there any... I use lots of examples of real-world companies in my book. Companies like Nokia, BlackBerry, Woolworths, the high street store. It's like...
No, I understand.
The thing is, a lot of things that seem impregnable...
Hang on a second. Hang on a second.
Sentiment can turn around and they're screwed.
But hang on. I'm talking about, listen,
Kodak. That's a good one.
No, but hang on a sec, Glenn. Hang on. You're talking about the end of their stories here. You're not talking about. I'm investing in small caps at the start of their stories. You're talking about the end of their stories. These big companies.
Small caps, their stories end quite soon after.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Though, it doesn't.
Most of them do. Most of them.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Most of them do.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. You look at the trash of AIM. The trash of AIM, yes. If you look at the businesses, growing businesses that are just starting to generate cash, they're not. There's some fabulous success stories on AIM, and people sort of trash them all. If you're looking at resource stocks,
I'm not trashing them all, mate.
No, what I'm saying is, there's some fabulous.
Most of them.
I mean, look at companies like I know recently, of course, but companies like Boohoo, Asos.
I bought those shares. I had.
So I want to. I don't want to trade in and out for like 20, 50%. I want multiples. I want 1,000%. I want to hold a company for 1,000%, and it's doable. It's doable. And I think if you pay enough attention to this company and do enough research and buy at the right level, you can get maybe not 1,000%, but you can get 300 to 500% on these guys. And I don't want to trade in and out just for 10, 20, 30% and have the stress of trading all the time. I prefer to just, I enjoy investing in businesses, not just trading for a profit. I don't enjoy trading for a profit. I do enjoy business and business updates and looking at all functions of the business and how it's growing and improving. I enjoy that, You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's nice.
Yeah,
it's nice that you enjoy
I love it. I have a passion for it. But my passion is not for trading, for just to skim a couple of percentage profit. I don't enjoy that. That's not it. If I do that,
same here. I like holding on for the long ones. We've talked about.
I genuinely like reading about the people.
Buys, the shares I've held for years. I held ASOS for years and years.
This is not me saying.
I like it. I love it.
Well, there we are.
Trading can also, doing stuff a little bit shorter term could also be good too.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying me. I'm not saying. I'm not saying. Of course, there's people make money trading. Lots of people make money trading. I'm saying it's not for me. That's what I'm saying. And to say that, what I'm saying is AIM gets a bad rep because you get the crap companies, falling apart and really screwing the shareholders over. Basically, the noise that comes from that. It sort of far outweighs the noise from the better companies that are growing steadily, doing quite well. It's the most successful growth market in the world. In fact, just 25 years of AIM just now, and I was reading about it. They've raised a lot of money, and a lot of good businesses have thrived on there. But we hear about the bad ones, the frauds, the ones where people lost their money, because of course there's legals and lots of. So there's plenty of good businesses on AIM that'll do well and are doing well, and will grow to multiples of where they come from. But yeah, so that's what I like. I like to say a growing business. It's a story, the narrative I like. That's what I like about investing.
Well, do you like the narrative of Bitcoin or not?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I was convinced by it, sort of thing. When I should have.
Well, you've gone through being convinced and then unconvinced and then convinced again.
Now it's gone to a stage where I was convinced on the whole. I wasn't at the start. Then the first thing that convinced me was it hasn't had a hack for 10 years, Obviously, people's accounts have been hacked, like any people's accounts, like bank accounts have been hacked. But the actual blockchain technology is stable and no one's hacking it, And that's, to me, that says a lot. That says
it is. It is theoretically possible to be hacked, but yeah, you're right. It's in the real world. It's because it's so difficult to pull off. It hasn't been. It basically requires there are a number of ways to do it, but the main way is you would need a majority of the miners. The companies,
and now though that's going to that's going to be less.
They would need to collude.
But that's going to be less viable now, isn't it? Because of the size of it and all that, and the hash rate and all that. So anyway, but what I'm saying is, the fact that, and also the fact that most people in the Bitcoin space start probably very good with computers. Some of them probably hackers, very good hackers. They couldn't do it. They realized, in fact, this is such a it's a force to be reckoned with. It's such a secure digital asset. It makes a lot of sense. But then I got people saying store of asset. I don't know if it was, and I thought, and now I'm just at the case of just people think it's worth something, and this is my thoughts evolving. It's worth something. Full stop. And that's it.
Yeah.
And, Anyway, listen, any final thoughts? Now we better go because I'm minutes late on my next interview.
I think that's enough thoughts for now, Justin.
Yeah. No, listen, everyone's got to... Listen, trading, investing, I don't care what you do, but you've got to find what you like doing. And that's what I think. That's all I think. I like investing. I don't like trading so much. That's all.
It is. My final thought on Bitcoin before I go, just to kind of, because I've probably sounded a little bit vague, that's because my thought process is currently a little bit vague. As we stand here recording this on Tuesday morning, the price of Bitcoin has recovered about half of its losses. So it was down more than 20%, and now it's back up, 10% of that or so. So it's kind of hovering in the middle, and I'm sort of a little bit in and out because I genuinely don't know which way it's going to go right now. Nobody does. But rest assured, as a trend follower, if it does resume its upward climb, I'll be in. And if it doesn't, and it decides to have a much steeper correction, I'll be out. That's kind of the beauty of the trend following method of trading, is that you're in when there's money to be made, and you're not in when there isn't. That's the theory, and it tends to work pretty well in practice. So there you go. That's what I'm doing right now.
Marvellous, Glenn. Thank you very much, and we'll speak next week.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, it's time for the top 5 most followed companies on Vox Markets in the last 24 hours. And there's a few names in here, actually. First one is Calnex Solutions. That's down 2.5% to 116. CLX is ticker there. At 4, Valura, that's up 4.4% to 35.5. At 3, Enquest, up 4.6 to 13 or 14 pence. At 2, Global Petroleum, down 7% to 1.2. And at 1, Argo Blockchain, of course, bouncing there because the Bitcoin is bouncing. And that's up pretty much 10% to 104. Okay, top 5 most read RNSs are as follows. At 5, Blue Star Capital, final results. At 4, Bahamas Petroleum, funding strategy, reconciliation and put option. At 3, Helium 1, submittal of drilling, ESIA at Rukwa project. At 2, Power Metal, Hineti nickel PGM product, drilling update. And at 1, Arc Minerals, placing with UK institution. That's it for the top 5 most followed companies, sort of the most read RNSs. That's it for the podcast. Thanks for listening. Muchos apreciados.
The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite. Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.